Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that every thought in your head could be heard by others. Not your words, not your actions, but your raw, unfiltered thoughts. Imagine walking into a room and instantly knowing what everyone else is thinking, their desires, their secrets, their judgments, their fears. What would that world look like? Would it bring us closer together in perfect understanding, or tear society apart in chaos and mistrust? The question of mind reading has fascinated humanity for centuries, from ancient myths of telepathy to modern science fiction. But let's take it seriously for a moment. What if humans truly had the ability to read each other's minds? First, let's picture the most immediate impact: honesty. Our world runs on the assumption that thoughts are private. We can lie, we can keep secrets, we can present a version of ourselves to the world while hiding what we really think. If mind reading became universal, lying would disappear overnight. Every politician making promises, every advertiser trying to manipulate you, every friend telling you I'm fine when they're not, it would all collapse instantly, because their real thoughts would be laid bare. That might sound liberating. No more deception. No more corruption. People would be forced to live authentically, because there would be no way to hide. But at the same time, consider the chaos. Every unkind thought, every judgmental whisper that normally stays in someone's head would now be public knowledge. Imagine walking down the street and hearing what people think about you, the compliments, yes, but also the insults. Imagine hearing what your boss really thinks of your work, what your spouse really feels, what your closest friend hides deep inside. Could relationships survive such brutal honesty? Romance, for example, would change forever. The dating world today is a delicate dance of attraction, mystery, and sometimes games. But in a world of mind reading, there is no mystery. You would know instantly if someone likes you, if they're attracted to you, or if they're just being polite. Affairs and betrayals would vanish, but so would the excitement of not knowing. Love might become purer, but also colder, stripped of its illusions. Friendship too would be redefined. Many friendships survive because people forgive, overlook flaws, or simply don't know what their friends truly think about them. If every thought was exposed, would friendships crumble under the weight of judgment and resentment? Or would they become deeper, based on radical transparency and unconditional acceptance? Now think about work. Offices, negotiations, politics, all of it depends on strategy, hidden motives, and diplomacy. Imagine a business meeting where every executive can hear the doubts and ambitions of the others. Deals would be reshaped instantly. Manipulation would be impossible. But so too would privacy, creativity, and strategic planning. Entire industries built on persuasion, marketing, advertising, even diplomacy, might collapse overnight. Governments would change in ways we can hardly imagine. Elections, debates, campaigns, they would no longer be contests of performance, but raw exposures of thought. Voters would hear not what politicians say, but what they truly believe. Corruption would be instantly visible. Lies could no longer exist. That might sound like the ultimate victory for democracy. But would we like what we discover? Politicians are human too, filled with fear, doubt, and sometimes ugly thoughts. If every dark or selfish impulse was exposed, would anyone ever be trusted again? The justice system would be transformed as well. Imagine courts where guilt or innocence is decided not by evidence, but by reading the thoughts of the accused. No more wrongful convictions. No more lies on the witness stand. But what about freedom? If every thought can condemn you, then even imagining a crime could be enough to punish you. Could we trust a system that polices not actions, but thoughts? Would thought crime, once the stuff of dystopian fiction, become a terrifying reality? Religion would also face profound change. Many belief systems are built on the idea of an all-knowing deity who sees into your heart and judges your thoughts. If humans themselves gained that ability, would religion lose its power, or would it transform into something new? Faith communities might fracture, or perhaps thrive in a new era of radical honesty. Spiritual leaders could no longer hide hypocrisy. Sins of thought would become public, not private. Would morality become stricter, or collapse under the weight of constant exposure? Now let's talk about families. Parents would hear the true thoughts of their children, not just their words, but their secret fears, fantasies, and frustrations. Children would know what their parents really think about them, their siblings, and even each other. The walls of generational misunderstanding would fall, but so would the comforting lies that keep families together. Every hidden resentment, Every judgment, every favoritism would be laid bare. Could families survive that level of truth, or would they fall apart? On a larger scale, international relations would be unrecognizable. Imagine global leaders in summit meetings, each one aware of the real intentions of the others. Wars might end because deception would be impossible. You could not pretend to negotiate peace while secretly planning an invasion. Trust would either be absolute or non-existent. Yet, paradoxically, the possibility of violence might grow, because every hostile thought could be seen as a threat. Could nations coexist if they knew exactly what their rivals thought of them at all times? And what about art, literature, and creativity? So much of human expression comes from trying to convey thoughts and feelings that others cannot access directly. If everyone could already read each other's minds, would art lose its purpose? Or would it evolve into something new, not about expressing hidden thoughts, but about amplifying shared experiences? Perhaps novels, poetry, and music would shift from being windows into the soul to being mirrors that reflect collective consciousness. Of course, science and technology would also be transformed. Psychologists would no longer have to guess at what patients feel. Therapists could hear the inner monologues of depression, anxiety, or trauma directly. Medicine could advance in leaps, with mental health finally understood in ways never before possible. But privacy, the most basic human right, would vanish. The walls of the mind, the last sanctuary of individuality, would be gone. Let's also consider crime. Criminals would have no way to plan secretly. Terrorist plots, thefts, murders, all of them would be exposed before they happen. Crime as we know it might disappear almost entirely. But does that mean freedom disappears too? If every thought is monitored, then even the possibility of doing wrong could lead to punishment. People might censor themselves constantly, afraid to even think freely. In such a world, are we still human? Technology could play a role in how this ability emerges. Perhaps it's not a sudden superpower, but the invention of brain-computer interfaces that decode thought. Maybe future AI systems will translate neural patterns into words, making mind reading possible through machines. If that happens, the ability may not be equal. Some might afford devices to shield their thoughts, while others remain exposed. Inequality could deepen, with the powerful able to protect their minds while the weak stand defenseless. This leads to one of the most profound questions: would we even want such a world? Transparency sounds good, but human relationships depend on boundaries. We need privacy to nurture intimacy, to choose when and how to share ourselves. If we lose that, do we lose individuality itself? If everyone knows everything, are we still unique, or do we become interchangeable fragments of one collective mind? Some futurists imagine this leading to a global brain, where humanity merges into one consciousness. Imagine billions of minds connected, sharing every thought, every feeling. Wars might vanish, replaced by total empathy. Loneliness might disappear, because you would never truly be alone. But individuality might also vanish. The price of perfect unity might be the death of the self. Others fear a darker path. A world where thoughts are exposed could lead to tyranny. Governments or corporations could exploit mind reading to control populations, punish dissent, and erase freedom. Instead of liberating humanity, it could create the ultimate prison, where not even your mind is your own. But perhaps the reality would be more balanced. Humans adapt. Just as we adapted to the printing press, the telephone, and the internet, we might adapt to mind reading. New norms would emerge. People might learn to control their thoughts, to focus on neutral inner dialogue, to build mental firewalls. Privacy might evolve, not disappear. In such a world, we might learn radical empathy. Instead of judging each other for every stray thought, we might learn to accept that thoughts are not always truths, but passing storms in the mind. We might become more forgiving, more compassionate, understanding that everyone has dark or selfish impulses, but not all of them define who we are. Ultimately, the question of mind reading challenges us to think about what it means to be human. Are we defined by our actions, or by our thoughts? If others could see everything inside us, would they truly know us better, or would they only see fragments of passing noise? So, what would happen if humans could read minds? The answer may be both utopia and nightmare. A world without lies, without crime, without secrets, but also a world without privacy, without mystery, without the delicate boundaries that make relationships possible. Perhaps the real lesson is this: the walls of the mind protect not only our privacy, but our humanity. They allow us to choose what to share, to filter, to build trust slowly. Without them, life might be unbearable. Or it might evolve into something beyond recognition. The possibility of mind reading is still science fiction. But as neuroscience and AI advance, the line between thought and communication grows thinner. One day, technology may give us the ability to peek into each other's minds. And when that happens, the greatest question of all will not be whether we can read thoughts, but whether we should. This has been a journey into one of the most fascinating what-if scenarios, a world where humans can read minds. Would it bring peace and unity, or chaos and fear? The truth is, it could be both. If this idea made you rethink what it means to be human, hit like and subscribe to Future Scope. Because the future is full of possibilities, and the next one might be stranger than anything we can imagine.